Hey there, Cheese Meisters, and welcome back to the Peach Pot After Dark. I am Jeff, and I know you've been asking, so I'm going to tell you, I put the bop in the bop shabop shabop. I put the ram in the ram-a-lam ding dong. So go ahead, just shake it. Shake the hand. Shake my hand. I did it. It was me. And joining me on the other end of the internet is my cuz-host.
I'm Leslie, and I don't look at it as dropping out. I look at it as a very strategic career move.
It is. Your hair looks like an Easter egg.
You know what's funny about that moment now is how the further we get into, modern society, her pink hair does not look weird to me. I'm like, that looks perfectly normal. But I've lived in
What about the
Portland, Oregon,
pineapple
New
hair?
York. I mean, it's cute, but the pink is iconic.
It is, yeah. But she just goes all out with multicolored hair. I mean, she's a beauty student.
She was
She was. Unless she dropped out. We don't want to be a beauty school dropout. So in case you haven't figured it out, obviously you have, we are discussing this week Grease, the 1978 first, not Grease 2. You Must Change If You Want Love masterpiece, starring John Travolta, Olivia Newton-John, Stockard Channing, Jeff Conaway, Sid Caesar, Eve Arden. We are watching this in conjunction with season 3, episode 10, Home and Away, because there's a dance. No one in this movie forms a circle. Well, they form lines and dance down them. So there's all sorts of that.
There was a lot of fighting at this dance.
There was way more than if they'd invited the Shaw kids to Rydell, because that shit just goes smooth, I guess at some point we should discuss whether Shauna Na or David Silver is a better band for a dance, but we'll come back to it.
Sure.
Our spelling connection this week is, brace yourself, Eve Arden, who was in an episode of The Love Boat and a bunch of other things. Frankie Avalon, who was in an episode of Fantasy Island and a bunch of other things. Joan Blondell, who was in Fantasy Island. Ed Burns, who was in The Love Boat. Sid Caesar, who was in The Love Boat and a whole bunch of other fucking shit. Dodie Goodman, who was in an episode of The Love Boat. Susan Buckner, who was in an episode of The Love Boat. Lorenzo Lamas did an episode of The Love Boat. Fanny Flagg, Love Boat. Darnell Swelling, Dynasty, because we're switching it up. Ellen Travolta, Love Boat. Barry Pearl did an episode of 90210 that we have already seen, and I just didn't realize he was in it. Annette Charles was in an episode of The Mod Squad. Michael Tucci was in an episode of The Love Boat. Didi Khan did an episode of Hotel. And that's all I got. So it's like almost everybody who's not named Travolta. What's that?
It was a spelling reunion.
It really was. I mean, yeah, there was... I just kept looking. Like, sometimes I quit after the first person, but I'm like, I bet you that there's a bunch of people in, like, especially when you get to it's basically got all of the faculty. Like everyone who is older, like Sid Caesar, those are folks who, like, they brought on as they were getting older to put on The Love Boat. But even like most of the T-Birds and a good couple of Pink Ladies, Patty Simcox, she's in there. I mean, the whole fucking crew.
No, she's not.
So
pink.
No, she's not. She's too pure to be pink.
She's too annoying to be pink.
Well, that's true. I just hope she doesn't make too poor showing. Isn't that the most, to say the least?
I know. I love picking up on the slang in ways that I texted you this because I haven't watched this one in a while, but it is one where they keep remastering the sound. Because I'm like, oh, that line was never there. Or that line was so mumbled. Like, the sound was clearly not good for a long time. And now it's kind of jarring. Like, it's not bad, the stuff that you hear. It's just like, was this necessary? Like, no one took it seriously. Clearly none of these people haven't worked enough on stage to, like, enunciate or make sure their line is heard but then again, it also lends to the reality of it. Like, they're all just talking over each other. They're a gang. They're kids. It was interesting.
Yeah. I'm a big fan in this movie of watching the cutaways to the crowd shots of things, especially like during the dance when like anyone is up on stage saying like giving the rules to the dance contest, and they cut to the crowd and Duty's going like,
I know.
like just doing like what? Yeah, like they're just, and they're shouting words that like are clearly not the words being said in the moment. Like
Yeah.
they're just looped in later, and it's very. It's the crowd shots in this movie make me laugh, and they kind of always have.
Yes.
So, God bless. So for anyone who hadn't seen Grease, this is a movie set in a high school in the 1950s. 1959, I guess, is when the play was set. So, yes, it's like a late 50s deal. It's very much a kind of love letter to rock and roll, early rock and roll. The songs themselves in the show, but also the music they play when they're at the diner or when at the dance, when it's not, Blue Moon, like whatever. All sorts of 50s music in this thing. And it is about these two groups of kids, these T-Birds and these Pink Ladies, who are going to rule the school.
Yeah.
Because they're seniors. Which I believe is, I think Steve says something very similar at the end of the last episode at the Beach Club. So it's preparing us, I think, adequately for what our 90210 compatriots are going to experience in 1993. But Danny and Sandy had a summer fling, summer loving. They had a blast, and she goes back to Australia. He comes back to school, and then they meet each other because Rizzo is just a shit stirrer, and then he has to pretend that he's cool, and so that hurts her feelings. But then she starts dating a jock who has his brains in his biceps, and Danny wants to get her back because he feels bad because Summer Lovin' had him a blast, and so he is going to be a jock now. Like he tries all the sports, and then there's his buddy Kenickie, who's a T-Bird. He gets a car that they make cool just so that they can destroy it. Racing for pinks, you punk, pink slips ownership papers.
Fight you, man.
Oh, you implied I didn't understand what you were talking about.
You want to go?
Don't imply you didn't say it. You just implied that there was one thing in the world I didn't know, and now we're gonna fight. And Rizzo thinks she's pregnant, and then she's not, and everybody kind of dates, but they don't. And there's a big dance contest that's going to be on American Bandstand, broadcast live across the country, where everyone will see what fine, wholesome, upstanding students the kids at Rydell are. The school year ends, there's a big carnival, and their car flies. Did I do it?
Possibly die.
Yeah. Is that the... Here's what I'm really not looking forward to, because we've already started to see this shit. When John Travolta finally dies, the memes that are just going to be the end of Grease with the two of them in the car with the car that's red, but they're in black and white now. Fuck off, internet. I hate that shit.
I really didn't need, in light of Maggie Smith's passing, I did not need all of the "Hello, Wendy," "Hello, boy" memes from
Right.
Hook. I'm like, no, I cry enough. I don't need this.
Right.
I don't need to remember he's gone. Yeah. So, dear internet, you'll still do it, but please don't.
Yeah. I just don't like it. Feels lazy to me now that take a cast photo and gray out the dead people.
Right.
Because I've just seen it so much now with 90210 stuff with Shannon and Luke being... I'm like, stop it. Yeah. We understand. I get it. But
also, he's a Scientologist, so we have no idea where he's going.
No clue. but I don't know. Whatever. God bless John Travolta. All right. So we've both seen this movie about a gajillion and a half times.
No, my mom was like, "You have to watch this again."
I know. I barely paid attention last night when I was watching it. I've seen it so many fucking times. Although this is again, this is like The Jerk, where I mostly saw the TV edit.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so like there are a lot of the looter jokes are cut out.
Where did you watch it?
You know,
Where did you watch it?
I don't know, like TBS or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just edited for TV and we recorded it or whatever. So that's what I saw. So there's just a lot of like double entendres that are just cut
All
out.
of Grease Lightning has new lyrics.
The line about Pussy Wagon is taken out completely.
Of course.
Like that whole section of the verse is just gone. So no, there's things that are removed from songs. They're like some of the things that the T-Birds are saying to Danny in the lead up to Tell Me More are cut out. Like more direct references to whether she put out or not. Like they left some of the more indirect stuff in. But
that's definitely one of the things you notice more with the sound remastering. I'm like, oh, I don't think we wanted to remaster the sound quality on this because you hear so much more. And like, this is one of those where, granted, I was a kid watching this a ton and I loved it and I didn't get it. Mm-hmm. I was 16 when I did the show. And even then, being super sheltered, I still knew like, oh, this has a lot more. Oh my God. Like, what are we saying?
Right. Yep, we're saying dirty stuff. But, like, not nearly as crudely as in the sequel.
True.
You know, like, and that's one of the things that, like, if you're paying attention to this movie, there's a lot of it.
Yes.
You know, but you can, like, gloss it, you know, mostly. Like, you're just like, oh, Summer Lovin' had me a blast. You know, whatever. But most of this is about sex.
Because they're teenagers. Like.
Yeah.
Also, like, I was thinking about this. It's 1978, so take that for what you will. But it's a 1978 take on 1959. So,
yes,
you know, we can do and say hornier stuff in film. Also, 1959, that's like the brink of the sexual revolution. So, yeah, it's a lot of this makes sense to me.
That is something that I actually wanted to talk about quite a bit. One of my notes was in film and television, the presentation of the 1950s in the 1970s and 80s, because there's a lot of it. Like there is a lot of stuff that was made in the 70s and 80s that is set in the 50s that gives us a look back, that paints that era in a certain light. You know, like there's Happy Days, which is, you know, 70s into the 80s, set in the 50s in Milwaukee, in the Midwest. It's very wholesome. It's very, you know, like it's very family friendly, except again, I would like to point out that Fonzie was like 30, lived above a garage and dated high school girls. And we were totally cool with that. Like he was the coolest guy on television. And that's what was going on up there. So, but MASH, you know, made in the 70s, set in the 50s, was basically, it was set in Korea, but it was about Vietnam.
Yeah.
Like they were like, Happy Days is nostalgic. MASH is allegorical. You know, like they're trying to talk about now by talking about that. American Graffiti, also more of a nostalgic thing. But like, and this gets a little bit later, but Diner, Dirty Dancing, Back to the Future, Beaches, Stand By Me, Dead Poets, let's see, Clue, set in the 50s, done in the 80s. The movie MASH, Full Metal Jacket, like then when the ones that get to start talking about the 60s are sort of a different breed. But and Grease too, obviously. But so many of these things made in the 70s focused on teenagers from the 50s or just life in the 50s are so much about how people fucked then too.
Because it's like people need reminders, especially in politics, because they're always being like, oh, well, if we went to the good old days when people weren't fucking.
Uh-huh.
As I was watching this and thinking about, like, my God, it's so horny. It's a lot hornier than I thought for the 50s. And it's like, but they would have been. It's just we've had more access to documentation of that time. I mean, Romeo and Juliet is fucking Middle Ages. And it's based on a story even further back. I guess Troilus and Cressida.
West Side Story.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. East Side Story, the one with Carla.
People have always fucked. Teenagers have always been horny because that's what your bodies do when you get hormones. Although I will say, as I was watching this, I thought, we have a ton of like, these teenagers are so horny. Like, now, as we know more about different sexualities, like, I would love to propose something for the ace community. Dear Hollywood, just saying.
Right.
There are, or not even just ace, like there are people who are, just like, this sounds like a dumb idea in high school. I'm not going to do it.
Right. Yeah, sure. But you also, and it, props to this in Greece, you got horny ass teachers too. Like, whose ass is that?
Wonder who that is on the right.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think I like that. I want to get up in that ass. Yeah, that was pretty funny. But yeah, I think that the Grease and Grease 2 are hornier than most.
Yeah.
But it's almost like counter programming to American Graffiti and Happy Days.
Okay.
It's like hey, remember Leave It to Beaver? It wasn't like that. It was like this. These kids were fucking horn dogs. Like, everything Duty says is a sex joke.
Yeah.
Like, they're all just tossing out like sex jokes constantly. And that's not anachronistic. Like, of course that's how people in the 50s talked also.
Also, you talk worse with your friends than you do at home. Like, that's just what you do.
Of course. Yeah. Not me. I mean, potty. But no, clearly, like when I was in high school, when I was in grade school. Yeah. I mean, when I learned that you could strategically use curse words to punctuate a joke, or like to even just be the joke, like do yourself a favor. When you're bored, one time, just sitting by yourself, just start saying the word poop. Poop. It's just funny. Like, it's just a funny word. Like, you could just sit there and just say the word poop to yourself for like 10 minutes, and I guarantee you're going to find yourself laughing because it's a funny sounding word. Poop. Yeah. So yeah, once I learned you could do that, I was doing that all the time. And I don't know if you guys have listened, but I haven't stopped.
He hasn't.
I'm foot on the gas for this kind of nonsense. So yeah, but still my memory of Grease, watching it as a kid, edited version or not, is that it is a nostalgic look back at the 50s, even though it's like, it's a nostalgic look back at like being in high school and the music of the 50s, but it's not this sanitized, like the B story is Kenickie's condom broke and they fucked anyway. And maybe Rizzo's pregnant. Maybe. Like that's the B plot.
And like
teenage sex.
It's worth noting, but there is some like potential gang violence in this between two very white groups of boys.
Yeah.
I feel like this almost pokes fun at the 50s Like, you all think it was this way, but it was more like this, and also it was hilarious. Like,
I think that's true. Yeah, I think this is like it's like, no, it's not. It wasn't all like, nuclear family, come home, mom's wearing pearls in the kitchen
yeah.
shit. It was like this. Like, we had pep rallies, but mostly the prep rallies were an excuse for us to play grab ass.
Oh.
Like, we had dances, but the dances were largely an excuse for us to play
Yeah.
grab ass. We raced cars for pinks, you punk, pink slip ownership papers. It's right. I'm gonna hold me back, Kenickie. Hold me back. I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him.
I did the Annie fists.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that. Yeah, everybody. Well, that's earlier than the 50s. Fighting styles have moved on. Yeah, yeah. The Annie in the 30s, people fought like this.
Dukes.
In the 50s, they were like, "Come on." That's how they fought.
A fist to someone's midriff. My God.
Oh, yeah. Well, sometimes you gotta right in the ribs. What it's called. So you have done this play, and I want to know about how watching this compares to being in it, like compares to the play versus the movie. I've seen a high school production of this. I think my high school did it at some point, and maybe I had people who I knew in it. I don't remember why I saw it, but I did. I think maybe I can't remember if Michael was in it or not. I don't remember. Whatever.
Because I know most people probably aren't watching this, but for anyone, well, either way, I'm wearing a Pink Ladies jacket.
Oh yeah, you are.
Gifted to me by a director from Clarksville High School. So shout outs.
Okay.
Don't come after me if you want it, although you could totally have it back, but it's mine. And that's not where I did it. I did it where it was River Stage when they had it here. I don't know. They still have it, but I don't think they do shows on that little, the riverboat down in Jeff, like where that amphitheater is.
Yeah.
So I did it there, and I was Frenchie, and it's very different from the movie, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not as good. Like, there were alterations we made to the production because we were like, people are going to be wanting this. Like,
sure,
you're the one that I want, not in the stage version. Now, there have been revivals since, so they may have made those alterations now that they have more money, and the audience is going to be looking to see the movie because, for lack of a better word, the movie is iconic and it's fun.
Yeah.
The play is fine, but I realized as we were talking and through some of our text messages that what the show lacks is what everyone is basing this show is sexist off of. And to be fair, it's from a different time. Of course it's sexist. But all of the stuff about Danny getting into sports for Sandy, not in the show. Danny's even more of like, oh, why would you date him in the show?
Okay, so all right, so I want to know where things diverge. So, and I know, like, I read up about the play, like, that initially the play was written and set in Chicago.
Cool.
And and that the characters, like, Sandy was not like this Australian exchange student. She was like a Polish girl who got kicked out of Catholic school.
Show is Sandy Dombrowski.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of Polish characters in it because it's set in Chicago. Yeah, because there's a huge Polish population here. So, like, Polish and Italian last names are what's in the play. But I'm assuming she, like, the Summer Lovin' thing is like that's there. Like, they had a summer thing, and then she's coming back to school, but he has to act too cool to be like with his fellas rocking and rolling and whatnot. And then it's like she's like, why are you being a dick to me because you were so wonderful this summer? And then the play is them eventually coming back together.
That's correct.
Is that right? And then there's still the pink slip ownership papers. No, there's no car.
There's no
car race.
There's no other gang.
Is there a pregnancy subplot?
Because we need a woman to slut shame.
Although without that, how do you get there are worse things that could do?
So leads into a great thing, because Sandy's not really. She's listed as the leading woman, but she's not really. Like, I think Rizzo. I'm pretty sure Frenchie's in it more than Sandy is. Like, we both had so much more to do.
Interesting.
Which is strange, because again, Danny and Sandy, that's who you always think of. But if you want, if you really want something to do, like if you really want a role you can cut your teeth on, you want Frenchie or Rizzo. Like,
I could see Rizzo. I don't know what more does Frenchie do other than jump out.
Frenchie's just in there getting to be. Again, I remember getting to do more like charactery things. She has funny lines. A lot of the, I would say a lot of the non-Danny Sandy stuff is learning about all the different relationships in the show on stage.
Yeah, and that's barely in the movie.
Marty and Sonny, why are you all together? You're, honey, I know you can do better. And Sonny, like, you need a shower. Take a shower, then we'll see. Not even just that, he's always sweating. So you see a lot more, there's a lot more building of the relationships throughout the show. It feels more like a jukeboxy kind of musical, because songs that are playing in the background of the movie are featured on stage.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So is the resolution of the play, like, so what's, if Sandy's like not really the main character, what's the resolution of the play?
She's like, I'm going to change my wardrobe. I'm going to be hot and change myself to fit in with this group and this man of my dreams. But like, she doesn't go to the dance.
Okay.
It's, again, it's bonkers.
Yeah. You got to, I mean, I understand why you changed that for the movie, though, because you've got Olivia Newton-John, and she's great. And she's fucking adorable. And so you have to make her Australian, because how are you going to fucking do that accent, without like acknowledging it? You want her to sing as much as possible.
Exactly.
You want her to dance with Travolta, because we know that John Travolta in the late 70s is a dance machine. Watch him get down.
Did you clock that his suit was more 70s and everyone else looked more 50s? Because I did.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Now, this comes out in 78. Is it before or after?
I'm not sure, but I'm going to look up right now because I thought maybe you had.
Yeah, I just don't remember. Because to me, they're like 1 and 1A. Like they're right on top of each other.
Well, Grease was a year after. So he just said, I got a suit. I'm wearing this.
Well, I think it was probably more, let's ride the immense popularity of John Travolta dancing in a suit like this, and just wear kind of the same thing. Like when you're not being an active T-Bird, or like dressed for basketball, which the way he dresses for basketball is fucking hilarious. With his shorts and his shirt sleeves rolled up real tight. It's just very fun.
His waistband.
Oh yeah, we gotta put that somewhere. What are you gonna do? Not for nothing. It's not a comb, but as someone with just ridiculous allergies, which is me, I'm a handkerchief user, boys and girls, because I'm a fucking grown up. And so you gotta, but I've been carrying a handkerchief since I was a little kid. You put it in your pocket. When you don't have pockets, you know what you do? Right down the front of the pants, just, not all the way. You still want to be able to grab it, but then it's held, it's same thing he's doing with this comb. Like, it's easier because it's cloth and not like this rigid comb situation, But yeah, no, the front of the elastic right there, and that's where you put it in as a triangle or the diamond, so you like have the corner to grab.
See,
That's
women everywhere
so
just said that's
lessons for
cute
life.
when you don't have pockets. We're so used to not having decent pockets. We're just like, well, down the shirt it goes.
Stick in your bra. Yeah, see, I don't have a bra. You know, like I don't need one. Too flat chested.
Understandable.
But, I mean, like I don't think our grandma, but maybe, but I definitely know my grandma Taylor and her sister, very much Depression era kids, constantly had money in their bra. So like whenever I got good grades, I get titty money. Like it just all the time.
He used to hand me a 20 after a show, I would put it down my top, and he would act all like, oh, like, blushing and stuff. Right. I'm like, yeah.
Did he fold it? Yes. Did he handshake you? Did he palm you? Of course. It's the fucking grandpa move. That's the best move in the world, the grandpa move. Yeah, I like it. I'm a fan. All right, so the resolution is still them coming together at the end. Is Rizzo? Is everybody together at the end? Okay. Shoo-bop, shoo-wada-wada, dippity-boom-da-boom. Chang-chang. Chang-chang-da-bop. Okay, that's the way it should be.
I love us.
I know, right? That's the best. Okay, so you mentioned this in the play recap thing and the difference between the play and the movie. I've long carried this movie is, like, Grease is a problem because the moral of the story is like Sandy cannot get the boy she wants unless she tarts herself up. But I watched it last night and I thought, I think that's bullshit. I know that Danny tries way harder to change for her than she does for him, because this fool tried out for all of the sports teams and ran an entire track season while none of his friends knew it, which is like, those are some dense motherfuckers. Like, what? Danny Zuko turned jock? Yeah. It already happened. I've been running for 3 months and you never noticed. So Danny like puts on all this work and he shows up at the dance, Rydell leather jacket, Letterman sweater on. Like, he's ready to show this. I'm here for you, baby. Like, this is who you need. This is who I am. I'm here. All she does is change clothes.
Here's the thing,
right?
Because I'll come back to this. What he really needed to change, was his demeanor with her, because all he wants, is to have sex with her. Like, I mean, I don't think that's true. That seems to be what he thinks he needs to achieve in order to be deemed cool still in his friends' eyes.
I think that's what he needs to present to them. He needs to show that image to them. With her, I think when they're alone together, he is who she remembers from the summer.
Because he tries to grope her.
Sure.
Like, he accidentally hits her in the chest at one point, but then.
Right, but that's because he's trying to take his ring off and give her his ring.
And then pulls her underneath him. Again, he's constantly torn between this cool guy or be myself mentality. Valid as a teenager. And it also stands to reason, like, maybe you're not going to have that self-awareness to realize, maybe I shouldn't be trying to coerce her into sex. And then maybe also, I mean, I feel like some of her change is also to help with the mentality change. Like, I can be cool. I can be DTF. As I watched it, I also didn't feel like it was just for him. I felt like it was also to, like, get these women off my back. I mean, Frenchie is nice, but I think, her and Rizzo kind of come to an understanding too. When Rizzo's like, oh, you're not slut-shaming me? Okay, I'll stop making fun of you. But as someone who was made fun of for being an innocent, like, there are some days where you're like, you know what? I'm just going to change up my wardrobe and put on this presentation so that everyone will get off my back. So like, but I agree.
Right.
And I hate saying this because this is for the movie version, but like, he definitely does more, you know, if not as much as she does, you know? And it's funny because I wrote down, I went, you know, like the things we do for love. He joins track, she amps up her wardrobe. Both seem happy in the end. So is it wrong?
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. So I think, like, I don't think that you should change who you are to trick someone into liking you. Like, I think that's fucking, like, one, that it's a poor foundation upon which to build something. Mm-hmm. But two, it's exhausting. Like, don't you want someone that you can be yourself around? Not someone that you have to pretend to be someone around? Like, oh, fuck that. Like, it's just not worth that. But I will say that if you, especially at this age, especially when you're in high school, if you are not changing and evolving constantly, then what are you doing? You know, like, they should, not just from a story perspective, but from a story perspective, every character has to change. There has to be an arc. Otherwise, what's the story? So, like, that has to happen. But just as people, like, do you have any old high school yearbooks where people wrote, like, stay the same, never change? Bullshit. When I was 15, I thought that was hilariously bad advice. I was like, oh, so I should just always be like this? Like, that's probably terrible. Like, when I'm 30, if I'm acting like this, it's probably not going to be, like, viewed. It's that, What's My Age Again song. You know, it's like, no, you should grow up a little bit. And so I think that Danny and Sandy and Rizzo and Kenickie and fucking Sonny and Duty and Putsy and Marty and Jan and Frenchie and Sid Caesar, like, they all should change, you know? Like, fucking Sid Caesar just wants to ring the victory bell like he always wanted to. Like, one win would, like, for this dude. But, like, they should be striving to grow and change. And whether they graduate from high school and they both continue to be like leather clad, or whether she goes back to the poodle skirt and he goes back to the Rydell sweater, I think that they've both grown and changed independent of one another, but driven by their desire, I think, to be what they can be for, that they see the other person is looking for. So they are trying to change for that other person, but it's not exclusively about that. And it's changing and growing is good. And you should do that. You know?
Again, I think people forget that this show is about teenagers, because you can't tell me anyone, you can't tell me that at some point you didn't try to change who you were to get your crush. You know, like, that
of
happens. There's peer pressure, you know, and hopefully at the end of the day, you can walk away from it going like, well, that didn't work. And years from now, you'll also go, well, yeah, because that wasn't me. Just like he says, I mean, it was me, but it wasn't me.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
you know, like,
that's my name. Don't wear it out. I don't know. Maybe there are two of us, right?
That or the yellow pages. I don't know.
Cool. Like, I don't know.
It's good that people don't like that arc for her. You know, it's fine. Like, that shows, if anything, that shows how much you've grown and matured. But, like, yeah, as I was watching it, I thought, man, we really do need to cool it with, like, this show is sexist and like, it's okay. They're teenagers, and also, like, granted, again, if the stage version included what the movie version does with him going out for track, even a little bit of that to show that he was trying to change for her as well. Like, you know, if anything, I kind of end with like, why do either of them really want each other? But it doesn't matter because they're teens. And sometimes it's just you're attracted to the other person.
Right.
And they sing, you're the one that I want, you know, regardless of what anyone else says or influences. Like, they come together, they want each other.
Yeah.
They may be together 2 weeks, but, you know, they're happy in this moment. And I think we all just need to, like, calm down on it.
Yeah. I think
No,
I'm not sure Grease is
it's
the problem.
word, but it's not the problem.
I think it's the word, but no, I think it's not the problem we thought it was. But I would be curious to know what problems exist when you have some adventures in intimacy. Professional segue.
There's going to be a lot, so everyone buckle in and get ready to drive into heaven for Adventures in Intimacy. So another thing that we get with the screen version that we don't get with the stage version, we get this montage in the beginning. You know, if anything, the movie gives us a more fleshed out relationship between the two of them. You see how they interact. You see that there is this young love, and you know there's a connection because they're playing in the sand, they're teasing each other, they're canoodling under under the setting sun, and it's beautiful, and there's music and crashing waves. That montage in the beginning makes us root for these young lovers, even though the rest of the script has you scratching your head like, are we sure we want them together? Like, she doesn't seem...
Right.
She doesn't seem to really... They get along, you know, but they sure do part ways quite a bit, you know. He plays the I'm too cool for you, and then she's like, well, fine, I'm going to toy with your emotions. We have already been through this. You don't need this. But that montage helps solidify ultimately why we're supposed to want these crazy kids together.
And it gives you a counterpoint to each of their stories in Summer Lovin', you know, which is like his story is I met this hot babe, and you know, he doesn't say that, but everyone assumes it because he wants them to assume it. And her version is he was sweet.
True
Let's
love
skip
and he didn't lay a hand on you. Sounds like a real creep to me.
Right. So like you see that like the truth is probably more towards her side of things than his, but it's in the middle somewhere. You know, like I'm sure they played a little Roman hands and Russian fingers. Yeah. So I'm sure they had a good time, and we get to see it a little bit.
Well, the boys and the girls, I would say, are constantly talking about sex, but the boys are being more blatant and gross about it. So dumb.
They're so dumb.
But what's interesting here is we see kind of a hive mind versus independent. Or like hive mind is okay, independent is not. Because Putsy at one point is sitting in the bleachers, looking up some girls' skirts, and Duty, bless him, warns the girls, and he says, "You're a sick man, Putz."
Right.
Which is funny. Because, like, one, I'm like, oh, yay, thank you for doing that. Oh, you all are going to go keep talking about things that only women are good for and make a bunch of really...
What do you do for the other 23 hours and 45 minutes?
Be mad at whatever you want, but be more mad that, like, that these guys are talking this way. Oh. Okay. I don't want to criticize an actor's vocal choices because a lot of times when I come into the room and I tell people to think about their vocal choices for this scene, I encourage them, like, you know, your vocal choices are what's natural to you. Don't think about what you've heard and what this is supposed to sound like here. You know, focus on, like, especially with breath, like focus more on the breath, and that will help, like, encourage the sound. When Kenickie and Rizzo are making out, which shout out to that choreography. I really liked how they just went from the front seat to whoop over into the back. I was like, that was pretty smooth. It doesn't look comfortable, but never knew how that could be done. So thank you, Grease. Um,
It's
well,
not
no,
comfortable.
but I
The
haven't.
car, it's not comfortable. And those two people were much smaller than me. Moving around in a car when you're 6'2" is quite a challenge. Like your knees,
Fair.
everything. It's a whole situation. So we just had a tech problem, but we're back. So, and we were talking about doing
In
things
the
in
car.
very uncomfortable places. With the back of a Volkswagen?
Yeah. So, Jeff Conway.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna sound super critical. Jeff Conway makes some noises in this scene, like he and Rizzo are, like he and Stockard Channing are already banging.
Nice.
We know they're making out, and when I say make sounds like they're already banging, I think you understand what I'm saying. But in case,
like that. How about?
Very audible, super breathy, as if he's already climaxing, and then pick apart. And look, they're portraying teenagers. I'm not saying teens can't get over enthused or think that these are the sounds they're supposed to make in this moment before they even, have conventional sex.
I like that you think he didn't come in his pants, but go ahead.
Fair enough. And that's the thing I wrote down too. I said, maybe that's the joke because they're I think of the two characters, they're supposed to be somewhat experienced. Like,
yeah, sure.
Rizzo definitely has a past with Danny. Mm-hmm. And I think she was close to similar to Sandy at some point, and maybe she told him no and he dumped her, and so she's just like, fine.
Right.
Or she wouldn't go all the way with him, and that was, like she did just enough, and he said, no, I want more. Right. So again, maybe there was a point to this, but it was a lot and it was distracting.
Sure.
It's one of those things where if it's part of a joke, then it needed to be even more,
right,
if you're
right.
You can't really middle these things, and a lot of this is kind of done for yucks, I feel like they only got away with all of the innuendos in this because it's meant to be funny.
Sure. And yeah, all those things are jokes. Yeah.
So yeah, and when you're making out and you're new to all of that, it can be very you can have those reactions and things that you would maybe later on have to intercourse.
Right.
But yeah, it seemed like a lot. And yeah, I mean, he probably did finish. And therein is the joke. It's not the rubber breaking, right. The 25-cent insurance policy failing him.
Including a chick.
Oh my God. What? Fuck you, man. Crater face.
I know. That was a much better insult than, I bet you don't know what a pink slip is, knucklehead.
That man sucks. Like, that character. Like, not that actor, that character just sucks.
And like, sucks so. Like, do you think that he was so dejected from losing his pink shoe punk, pink flipped ownership papers at the end of this movie that's why he's still the bad guy in Grease 2? Like, he just couldn't get over it, just hanging around, ready to beat Adrian Zmed. Or fucking Maybe. Cool Rider.
So again, all that to say, conscious vocal choices matter.
Yeah. I'm with you.
It makes a difference. It's it tells a more thorough story. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could go on and on about it, but I won't. Something else. Okay, that dance scene. Did you notice how much underwear we saw?
Which dance scene? Like, generally?
The main dance. When they're dancing for American Bandstand and all that. Like, my God. Mm-hmm. Cha-Cha thought she was in a production of Can Can.
Yeah. Because she kept showing her Can Can?
Like, it just seemed like so much. Like, I'm sure the choreographer said, really show off those petticoats, or like really get, and maybe that skirt was hardcore in her way and making it harder for her to dance, because it is a big skirt. It looks kind of heavy with all of the glitter and that petty, like all that under there. Although I'm pretty sure it's only on like, it looks like it's only on the edging of it. It doesn't look like it's the whole way. I mean, at one point she's going around just like flashing everyone.
Sure she is.
And not just her. There is a character, there's a woman who is sliding across the floor with her legs up and just,
yes,
showing the world her birthing canal. The teacher, one of the teachers at one point is picked up.
Yes.
Yeah, it's probably for this reaction alone. Like, okay, almost women's cooters is funny. Except it's also weird. I'm also laughing because I'm uncomfortable. I'm like, how much did these actors know that they were going to be having to show their underwear? And like, yes, it's underwear, but like, it's a thin piece of fabric covering everything the Lord or science gave you.
That's right.
Like, so it's just weird, like, I don't really know what the motivation is, other than like teenagers are horny and they're wanting to show off. And I mean, to be fair too, when you're dancing, this is why we're given fun looking bloomers.
Sure.
Because otherwise you will see stuff.
Right. Well, and I will say that like the only asses we saw were of the boys.
True.
So, the girls at least got to stay covered.
Yeah, we only see some prune shoots.
Yeah, we almost got some real duty. Is all I'm saying.
And what's funny? I mean, those could have been stand-ins. I'm thinking for the time they weren't.
Probably not.
Like, it was probably those boys going, cool, I get to show my ass.
Yeah, I'll moon. Yeah.
So it's interesting how much of the lower half we see in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's dancing. You're likely to see stuff.
Right.
You're likely to see underwear. And it is funny how because I know when I've been like to a swing dancing group or something, people will usually have on like shorts underneath their skirts and stuff too, just in case. But yeah, people do get really weirded out if they see your underwear, and I'm like, I'm dancing.
It's sort of the point of a lot of those moves. Like,
well, yeah, it's a flirtatious thing,
Yeah.
It's like Andy on an episode of Dawson's Creek says to get the other kids to go to the dance. Like, dancing can be seen as foreplay, and
mm-hmm.
maybe that is ultimately the point. I mean, again, that teacher's hanging out with one of the students going, when I hear music, I just can't make my feet behave.
That's right. Or my hands. Oh, Sunny. Yeah. And fucking Vince Fontaine just putting aspirin in people's Coke. Yeah.
What a method.
Yeah. He's creepy, Vince Fontaine.
So a lot of intimacy in this.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last thing I will note is that in an ensemble piece like this, where not only are there romantic relationships, but there are friendships, and it's high school. But kids, teenagers, and how they relate to one another are handsy.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, whether you want it or not. So like there's always some different intention, like when we first see Danny interact with the posse, he like goes into, tap someone's junk.
Right.
Like,
oh, you want the vanilla nut taps.
Yeah. They're all, and not to say that an IC has to come in and do all of that, but you do need, but like, it is helpful to have options presented in case if someone's like, I really don't know what to do. And in this case, these people were definitely not teenagers.
Right.
But I will commend them for their ability. They all had good chemistry on doing more than just the arm around the neck.
Mm-hmm.
messing with each other, talking over each other, like playing with each other's hair or fixing each other's hair, like Frenchie does with Sandy. Touch is such a part of human interaction that people don't even think about it.
Yeah.
And this movie did that well.
Yeah, there's a lot of touch in this movie. I like it. All right, so do you want to shinny down the drain pipe into Needle Drop Forest?
Yeah, I do.
All right, so here's what I'm thinking for Needle Drop Forest. I'm thinking pick them. Like, we'll each just pick a number that we want to talk about a little bit.
Okay.
So do you have one? Because I could go a couple different directions.
My song that I'm picking is the one, not the one, but one that's definitely not in the stage version. And it's awesome. It's Grease is the Word.
Oh, the theme song.
The theme song. I mean, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's so well known that it can get added to the stage version a lot of times because people expect it.
Yeah. It's fucking Frankie Valli. It's so good.
It's so good. It sets the mood. This is about to be a fun show. Take you back in time to whatever you think that era was. But it's going to be fun.
And even the era is probably just meant to be your high school experience. You know what I mean? You're supposed to layer this on top of your real life and have that be that, Like,
this doesn't have to be the dated musical it is. Right. I'm sure people would take umbrage with this statement, but, like, it would be really cool to see if you try to put it in another era. Because, again, it's just about a group of kids.
Yeah. I feel like you need the jackets, though. In some.
Yeah, and I don't know how else. We'll get into that and what else.
Right.
But, yeah, Grease is the Word. Great song. That's all I can say about it.
I think for me, it would either be Summer Lovin', which I think is such a fun set piece with the two different, and they're singing their different perspectives, and the boys are doing their harmony parts, and I think that's super fun. But I think the thing that struck me watching it this time was the You're the One That I Want and Ramalama Ding Dong at the end, because of the way that they used the carnival rides as the choreography. And they like put the camera on the spinning cars, and they had the characters coming around doing the hand jive on the cars, and through the whole Shake Shack. Like, I just think the whole set piece is so well done and so much fun. It's just kinetic the whole time.
Yeah.
And there's like big opportunities for like ensemble dances, and for the one guy to do the his stupid little Charlie Chaplin thing he does.
There's so much ridiculous choreography and movement in this, and I thought, like, was the 50s just a great time for being like for mimicking animals?
Oh, sure.
I mean, Fosse does some weird stuff, but it's meant to look sexual in the end. And there were just so many odd angles, weird
There's elbows galore,
weird, kooky, quirky movements. But again, I feel like that is where you get some of the innocence of the era. Is like this is all just meant to be fun.
It is, yeah, and I find the end of this movie to be nothing but fun. Like, it's so fun that I want to go back and start it over again. Because the first couple numbers are really fun. And like there's things in the middle that I like. Grease Lightning's a great number. It's a fun number.
Everyone knows the movement to that. We're doing this in complete silence.
Of course we are, because people got to watch.
You gotta watch.
That's right. You got to see the video. I was struck again by the choreography of the camera movement on the carnival rides. I thought was just super fun. And it kind of leads me into some What Else time. We haven't gotten there yet, but there is a 90210 season finale, 2-parter, set at a school carnival. And it feels like this to me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it feels like this to me. So I oddly, because of how often I saw this when I was a kid, this movie and the carnival thing at the end was sort of foundational to my expectations for senior year of high school. Like,
oh no,
you just sort of like, oh, this is gonna like the end. We're all gonna be singing and fucking dancing, and everybody's gonna have a great. There'll be a carnival, and it'll be so much fun. And but that's still the way I imagine my senior year of high school. Even though it's like we didn't have a carnival. Yeah. But like this is how I think the end of high school is. It just is, you know.
Yeah.
And it's because I watched this a bajillion and a half times.
Yep. I could see that.
Yeah.
I don't know that I thought that was going to happen. I can't remember, but that makes sense to me.
I mean, I didn't expect us to, fly in the car or whatever. But like carnival, dances, drive-in theaters, like the whole thing. Like it's just all of that sounds so much fun to me. And have you ever been to a drive-in?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I thought the answer might be yes because you grew up in Indiana and we still have drive-in theaters in Indiana. So do you remember what you saw?
Oh God, this is embarrassing. I saw War of the Worlds remake.
The Tom Cruise one? Oh, interesting. Okay. I saw this.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, in a double feature with Midnight Cowboy. Not Midnight Cowboy, Urban Cowboy. Not Midnight Cowboy.
Yeah.
Because it was a John Travolta double feature. And I don't remember much of Urban Cowboy because it was the second one and it was late and I fell asleep. But I did see Grease at the drive-in theater when I was probably 7 or 8, like early 80s kind of thing. So yeah, drive-ins were fun.
I love drive-ins. Yeah, I definitely snuck into one once. At my friend's encouragement, they were like, "Hey, lay down in the back. Oh, we'll cover you and this other person with blankets." And yeah, we did that. Kids, what are you gonna do?
That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to sneak people into the drive-in.
Yeah. Sneak Ember in all the time.
Of course.
My what else is I feel like this movie was ahead of its time in knowing that people's attention spans were going to shorten. Because for the opening number sequence, I mean, you have cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of go with the movie. They also kind of don't.
Right.
Although I don't know what that artist had against Stalker Channing, but he did her dirty because that caricature of her is not great, and I demand a redraw.
I don't know. There was some, she took off her sweater. Thumbs up for that.
Oh my God, it's not great when it shows the face of the person next to the name, like the drawing. It's not. Good. That's what I mean.
Gotcha.
But also then during Danny Zuko's number, Stranded at the Drive-In, and all that. Mm-hmm. There's the drive-in cartoons.
Yeah, the hot dog jumping into the bun.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like I love it so much, but it's also like, what a weird thing to have that going on behind him. You have this. Although I will say again, he's asking like, "Why'd you leave me?" And it's like, because you just assaulted her and weren't listening. Of course she left you, you dumbass.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like this movie was ahead of its time, just knowing that people's going to need multiple things to look at when they're listening to a song.
To be honest, I think the hot dog and bun thing is kind of what's going on in his head, even as he's singing it. He's thinking about putting the hot dog in the bun. And it's, it's just up there, in case you were wondering, he was thinking about that. And look at how happy that hot dog and that bun were to get together. That's all I'm saying.
He's like,
yep. Woo. Yeah, that's how that works, I think. All right. Was this anyone's defining role?
Oh yeah.
I think so. I think it's most of the It's like most of the movie's defining role.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
like even though many of them have gone on to do other things, like it's definitely Stockard Channing is Rizzo.
Yeah, she's Rizzo. She's also Dr. Abigail Bartlett. So, but when she shows up on the West Wing, you're like, there's Rizzo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's the first lady on the West Wing.
Oh,
yeah, the West Wing's awesome. You should watch the West Wing's really good.
I know, I should. It looks.
Yeah, she's Rizzo. She's Sandy.
Olivia Newton-John is Sandy. Dee Conn is Frenchie.
Yep. What's her ass is Marty. 100%.
Oh yeah.
All those T-Birds are the T-Birds. Sid Caesar's not. He's Sid Caesar. And Frankie Avalon's not. He's Frankie Avalon. But he transcends. This is as much you could hang about 3 or 4 different things on Travolta as his defining role, but this is definitely one of them.
Yeah, like it's definitely the first thing. It was for me his defining role for a long time, but like you said, now that I've seen more of his work, there are other things that I could totally be like, oh yeah, Pulp Fiction,
yeah,
Saturday Night Fever.
I think it's one of those 3, or it's Vinnie Barbarino. But for most people, it's not Vinnie Barbarino. That's from Welcome Back, Kotter. That's like the first thing people got to know him.
Oh, okay.
Is one of the Sweat Hogs, Mr. Kotter, which is also, that show is quite funny.
I would love to watch it. I used a lot of pictures from that show for a school project once, and my teacher was even like, "There's a lot of Welcome Back, Kotter on here." I was like, "I know, but I don't." I know he was like, "You don't know the show."
Yeah. It's like, it's funny because like every episode starts out with Mr. Kotter and his wife, and he's telling her a story about someone in his family, but it's always just like an old Borscht Belt joke. But it's always like, my uncle did this, and he's like, the first 2 minutes of it is just him telling her a joke. And they're funny. Like, they're just good jokes. They're just jokes. And the show itself is fine, and the characters are super memorable and stuff. But Barbarino being one of them, like, he was big time breakout on that. But I think he's as much Danny Zuko as he is Annie. Do you have anything else for what else time? Because I have one more thing.
Just shout outs to the lady auto teacher that I never realized like was a big deal, but it definitely is. So yay her. Myrtle.
She's awesome.
I think her name's Myrtle.
Yeah, it should be.
Or Murdoch. I don't know. Ooh.
I don't remember. You're the mechanic that I want. You're the mechanic I want. Fix my car, honey. Miss Murdoch. Mrs. Murdoch. Yeah, Alice Ghostly. Who is definitely one of our spelling connections.
Of course she is.
She's, let's see, what else? What do you know her? Oh, she was Aunt Stephanie in To Kill a Mockingbird. Okay. Oh, you know who she is, who you probably don't know her from, because I don't know if you watched the show or not, but she played Bernice in Designing Women. Did you ever watch Designing Women?
I haven't, no.
That movie, and she's also in The Graduate. But Designing Women was quite funny, and my memory of her character is that she's this very ditzy old lady and is very funny at it. So, yeah, thumbs up for Bernice, Mrs. Murdoch. Do you have any personal connection to the band that played the dance?
To Johnny Casino and the Gamblers?
To Sha-Na Na, who is actually the band that was Johnny Casino and the Gamblers or whatever.
Oh, man. No, I like them, though. They're fun.
So Sha-Na Na had a TV show in the late 70s, and they were a doo-wop throwback group. Nice. And, like, the big star of Sha-Na Na was Bowser, who is in the movie, like, he's the really tall, skinny one who has the huge mouth.
Okay.
That he's always like.
Yeah.
He's got like this huge, like big teeth and this huge. He was just known for this big mouth, and he was the. I think he was the base.
Okay.
But I loved this show when I was a kid. Apparently, to the point where when it went off, I would cry, wanting it to come back on again. Because I was like 3. I was a little kid. All right, yet another restart. This has been a technologically challenging episode for us. But yeah, love me some Sha Na Na. That's all I needed to say. Yep. So little 3-year-old me crying about Sha Na Na going off the air. What do you have for EST?
I think this is the best opening credits of any movie.
It's pretty great.
Like the song, the art featured in it, it's just really good, and I never want to skip it.
Yeah, no, yeah, you shouldn't. It's great. Although, like as a kid, like when Grease would start, or when like the Pink Panther movies would start, I was so mad because they weren't cartoons. I'm like, you set me up. I'm expecting a cartoon, and now it's not a cartoon. Kiss my ass.
Oh, I was okay with it.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Like, I like me a cartoon. This is not quite the most technologically challenging recording session we've had, but it's on the list.
Yeah.
This is recording 4 to get this one in. So there's that. Yeah, I don't know. It's not my favorite musical, but it's not even the one I've seen the most. I'm sure that's probably Wizard of Oz or Sound of Music. But this is close.
This might be one of the most well-known movie musicals.
I think so. Yeah. It got more it definitely got more airtime like in the 70s and 80s than say West Side Story.
Yeah.
Which was huge. But but Mary Poppins got a lot. Like I saw Mary Poppins a lot when I was a kid.
Okay.
As musicals go, as from that are older than this one. But I would say most of the musicals from the 60s did not get the same kind of play that Grease did, for sure.
It's a shame.
Yeah. There's some good stuff. I mean, this is our 3rd musical.
Maybe. I haven't been keeping track, though I should have.
Grease 2, An American in Paris, and this. Did we do any other? I don't think we've done another musical. Oh, Annie, 4. That's right.
Yeah.
And Kurt. God bless Kurt. All right. So I think that once again, we have proven my theory that everything comes back to in spelling.
Even Grease.
How about that shit? We have not yet decided what we're going to do next week. So, we'll have to figure that out in conjunction with presumption of innocence. So we have some thoughts.
There's an Uncle Henry in The Wizard of Oz.
Jesus. Yeah. And an Aunt Emily.
No.
Sing out, Emily. So we're just mushing all of our musicals together. So I don't know. We'll watch something next week. I don't know what it is yet. But you know that it's going to be fucking fun. So whatever it is, just, join us. And join us on Wednesday next week when we jump into season 3, episode 11, A Presumption of Innocence, where oogie things happen. Yep.
Have a stuffed animal, a pet, a trusted individual with you, or a nice blanket.
Yep. Yeah. Ooginess abounds. So until then, Cheesemeisters.
Cheers.
Cheers.